Hi VC. Welcome to the third part of a vinyl update that I'm doing. This is going to focus more on modern rock or just non-audiophile rock in general, pressings that aren't particularly special but stuff that's good music that of course I had waiting for me in Texas over the past 5 or 6 months, and also some stuff that I bought here too in the last week or so. So most of this stuff is going to be modern rock. However, we're going to start with one that is definitely not modern. This is Captain Beefheart, Safe as Milk. This is the Sundays mono version. This actually sounds pretty good. I've never heard an original pressing of this, but I feel pretty happy with how this one sounds. It's really awesome music. It's before Captain Beefheart got too weird. I really want to get a copy of Trap Mask Replica because that's an amazing album, but this is kind of an example of his early, more bluesy stuff. Here we have a great punk album. This I've been wanting to get for a long time. This is Birds in a Row, You, Me, and the Violence. Birds in a Row are a really fantastic, emotionally tinged hardcore band from France. You could almost consider them part of the Screamo movement, but they're still a little more rooted in hardcore than that. I have their recent album, their recent EP, but I had not picked up their full length yet, so I'm really happy I have this. This is, of course, on Death Wish Records, a great label run by the guys in Converge, Jacob Bannon in particular. This is an album that I've waited forever to get repressed, and they finally done it because I did not want to have to fork over the money for a used copy. This is the classic album by the Japanese band Envy, All the Footprints You've Ever Left Behind and The Fear Expecting Ahead. This is a really legendary album in the post-rock and screamo genres. This was kind of the album that Envy kind of set their formula down in. I think this came out in there's not a date on here. I can't remember the year this came out. I want to say this is like 2001-ish when they did this, and up until then Envy had kind of been mostly a hardcore band, a Japanese hardcore band. And this was the album where they really started to take some of their more space rocky tendencies and just let them roam free. And the result is they kind of created their own genre, which is the kind of fusion of post rock and screamo. I think one of my friends ended up calling it scrambient, because it really is this beautiful overarching ambient screamo that this band was able to make, and so many bands since then have tried to imitate that. None of them have sounded as good as Envy. Envy are a really legendary band. They've been around for like 25 years. I just saw them in Montreal for the first time ever, seeing them live this past fall with Deaf Heaven, and they were incredible. They're even better live than they are on record. I highly recommend checking this band out. Unfortunately, 2 months ago, their vocalist, who's been with them for their entire career, 25 years, has retired, quit. I don't know what the future of the band is going to be. They may continue on without a vocalist and just make post-rock music. I don't know, or they may find a new vocalist. But I'm really glad I got to see them before that happened, because they're just such a influential band to so many people, including myself. They also did another repress of one of their other albums. This is their album Insomniac Does. They did this a couple years ago. This is a full length from, I think, the late 2000s. This is, again, more in the post-rock direction than their earlier stuff. Incredible album. I like everything this band has ever put out, so definitely check them out. Here's a great recent Screamo album by the band Ostraka on Skeletal Lightning. I've seen these guys play a few times, and they're incredible. Really raw, ferocious energy. Such a fun band to see live. Ostraka Deathless. This is their new full-length album on Skeletal Lightning Records. Definitely check it out. This is a band I didn't really know much about at all, but I think it was one of the distros I was browsing had this up, and they said they were a band from Japan, so I went and I listened to them, and it was really incredible music. This is Totola 93. I don't believe this album actually has a title. I think it's just self-titled. It's their last album. I think they broke up after they released it, and this is fairly within the last year or two. Really abrasive power violence, screamo, chaotic. I don't know if it's technically classified as screamo. I think it sounds more like power violence, but it's just this really spastic, chaotic, but beautiful music. If you like The Locust or stuff like that, definitely check this out. This is a really, really awesome band from Japan. Speaking of The Locust, this is another band very similar to The Locust. This is a band called Angel Hair, and their full-length record, Insect Mortality. This was a band in the 90s that kind of was one of the pioneers of the really abrasive, chaotic, noisecore, hardcore, mathcore movement that was going on with bands like The Locust and, Death Wish Kids and the Blood Brothers and things like that. I actually first heard about this band from an interview that the Blood Brothers did on records that really influenced them. And, of course, the Blood Brothers are one of my favorite punk bands ever. They're just this incredible, funky, chaotic, noisy band. And listening to them talk about some of their influences, I just went and started looking them up. And of course, their biggest influence is The Locust, but they also talked about Angel Hair quite a bit. And especially the Angel Hair self-titled 7-inch that I have. And so when I saw this in End of an Era Records last week, I had to get this. This was... no question, it had to be a part of the collection now that I saw it, because it's kind of difficult to come across in person. You normally have to go to Discogs. These next couple albums are part of a set I bought on eBay of just a collection of records from the band Funeral Diner. And Funeral Diner are a really great early 2000s screamo band, one of my favorite screamo bands from the classic era. And so I picked up a set of a couple of their albums someone was selling. This is because they have a huge discography. I have I want to say like 4 or 5 of their LPs, which are most of them which are splits, and that doesn't even begin to touch the breadth of their discography. This is their split with the band Staircase on 8 Must Not Kill Records. Again, classic screamo. This is a really early Funeral Diner record. This is their split with Nexus 6, a band I'd never heard of before. I haven't gotten around to listening to this one yet. I need to do that, because I think this is probably one of their earliest releases, if I'm not mistaken. And this is their split with the band Dead City. Now, I actually already had a copy of this, but it was a tour edition, so the cover and the inserts and everything was totally different. I think this is the actual official release of this now, so it's kind of cool to have 2 versions. It didn't cost me much money to do so. Moving on, more Japanese music. This is the new release by the band Boris. Boris are, again, one of my favorite bands. Every Boris release I buy. If I see a Boris album in a store, I'm going to get it, because they're just such an incredible and varied and diverse band. This is another collaboration. They've done a number of collaborations with the Japanese noise artist Merzbow. Merzbow is, of course, a very prolific experimental harsh noise artist in Japan. Boris have done 2 albums previously with Merzbow. One was a live album, Rock Dream, which I have up there. Another one is Sunbaked Snow Cave, which is a studio album, I believe, that they did with him. I also have that. This is a new one they just did called Gensho. And it's an interesting concept because they released the album as 2 parts. This is Gensho Part 2. And in Gensho Part 2, there's 2 LPs. One LP is the Boris LP, and one LP is the Merzbow LP. And they're meant to be played either on their own or simultaneously, so you can play both LPs at the same time, and it's supposed to be one album. I've heard of bands doing things like this. I think most famously Neurosis, the hardcore band Neurosis, did a release like that, where they did with their... They released a Neurosis album, and then they also released an album under their experimental band name, Tribes of Nerut. And they were both supposed to be played at the same time. This is the similar kind of thing. So Gensho Part 2 is Part 2 of what I assume is the double album of Gensho. And so Gensho Part 1 would also have a Boris album and a Merzbow album in it. And so I don't have Part 1 yet. If I see that, I need to pick it up. But I'm excited to listen to this. Unfortunately, I don't have another turntable in this room, so I won't be able to listen to them simultaneously. I guess I could get a digital copy and oh no, that wouldn't work either. I don't know. I'll figure out a way to listen to both of these at the same time somehow. Some of you may know this next album because I'm guessing most of you probably haven't heard of most of the stuff that I just showed. This is the new album by the Deftones, Gore. I've been meaning to pick this up for a long time. Finally saw it at Waterloo. This is on white vinyl. I listened to this already a little bit. It was streaming online. I like it. The Deftones are a really great, prolific band whose music I enjoy pretty much across the board. Some albums more than others. I don't think this is one of their finest albums. I think it's just a really good, solid album. There's a lot of good moments on here, some good experimental stuff, good vocals by Chino. There's a good mix going on. I don't really like it as much as their last album, Koi no Yokan, and it definitely doesn't stand up to me as one of the best Deftones albums. It doesn't sit along with the self-titled or White Pony or Saturday Night Wrist, which I think is their finest achievement. Saturday Night Wrist is probably my favorite Deftones album, but this is quite good. It's them in their form, and Deftones fans will definitely enjoy this. And even if you never heard the band, I think you'll enjoy this. It's definitely a good album, not a great album, but a good album. Here's one that was missing from the collection for a long time. This is Nation of Ulysses, 13-point program to destroy America. Really classic early post-hardcore band from Washington, D.C., on the Discord label with their friends and their colleagues and Fugazi and other bands like that. I had the album they did after this, which is Plays Pretty for Baby. In fact, Plays Pretty for Baby is one of my favorite albums in the genre. I don't know why I didn't have this yet. So I picked it up. Discord releases are great because they're always very inexpensive, and to the best of my knowledge, actually, most all Discord releases are AAA pressings in which they're all pressed from analog tapes on analog equipment. That is what I hear. Obviously, they don't talk about that much on the label because they're a punk label, and I think the people that buy these records don't really care about that all that much. But I know for a fact that all the Fugazi records that Discord's reissued are done from the original tapes. They may be remastered, but I know they're done from the original session tapes, and I think that's the case here too. So Discord are a label that if you want to buy really great sounding punk albums, definitely buy from Discord, because they seem to care a lot about doing things the right way. This is a local band that I've been seeing for a while. Actually, the first time I saw them, they went by a different name. They were called The Measure Of, and they were more of a Screamo-based ambient hardcore band. Now they're called Funeral Bloom, and they have this excellent album called Petals out. They've had it out for a while now. And they play music that's more along the lines of black metal, taking influence from bands like Deaf Heaven, but I think they're a little more rooted in hardcore punk than Deaf Heaven are. Definitely similar to bands like Envy in that regard, but again, they do a little more the black metal thing, and with kind of riding drum patterns and blast beats, and kind of the black metal guitar tone and vocals. This is a local band that I've seen live a couple times, but I think you can pick this up around the country. It's on the label More Than Me Records, which is, I think, distributed through Broken World Media. So you should be able to get it at a lot of online punk distros, and you should be able to get it shipped to you. Great stuff. These guys play really well. A surprising amount of Japanese music in this update. This is Toe with their new album Hear You. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to this yet, but Toe are this. If you don't know Toe are this band that make really beautiful, kind of slow, acoustic-based ambient music with some math rock influence. This band is great at creating ambiance and storytelling with their music. It's done mostly with instrumentals. There's very little vocals in Toe's music, if at all. And this can be picked up really easily because it's actually on Top Shelf Records, which is an American label. Top Shelf are a label that do a lot of emo and punk music, but they've also got a hold of the Toe catalog and are doing that because I don't think these were ever released on vinyl in Japan. I think the vinyl is only a US thing. This is a record I bought from my friend Chris, who's clearing out his record collection. This is Native, We Delete Erase. This is the first EP by the alternative rock, punk, math rock band Native, who are unfortunately no longer active. I saw them a few times when they came through New York with other different bands. They're a really great band. Definitely check out some of their other stuff. I have the other two Native full-length albums. I was just missing this first EP, which has been out of print for a long time. It's awesome that my Native discography is finally complete. This is an album I just listened to recently. This is King Diamond, Abigail, a really classic metal album from the 80s. And listening to it, this is a reissue that Metal Blade did. And I've been very impressed recently with the quality of the reissues Metal Blade has been putting out. They all sound really good. I think they get them remastered pretty well. I don't know if they're from analog. They may be from digital. It wouldn't surprise me if they're from digital. It's a metal label after all. It would make sense if they were remastered from digital. But regardless of how it was done, this is a really incredible album musically. It kind of ranks up there is what I would think of as a perfect metal album. It's very dark and brooding. There's some really epic vocals. King Diamond, the vocalist, just has this vocal quality, this screech that's incredible. This to me is kind of the bridge. This is a bridge between the more popular 80s metal and the stuff from like Black Sabbath and things like that. To me, this is a bridge between the classic American metal of the early 80s and late 70s and what was to come later with black metal and death metal. This isn't quite Slayer. It's not quite, European black metal, but it is darker than what I think people were used to at the time. And it's very technically impressive. The instrumentals on this album are very technical, and the people playing are very accomplished musicians. It's not just power chords. It really is virtuosic music. So King Diamond, Abigail. This last album is an album that's very special to me. I have a regular copy of this already, but they did a special 3LP pressing of it for the 10-year anniversary of the album. This is one that I listened to almost nonstop when I was in high school. And it's an album that's definitely followed me for the rest of my life since then. I can never really get enough of this music, and this is Circus Survive's Janturna. This is just an incredible post-hardcore album, and it kind of contains everything I love about the genre. Anthony Green's vocals in this are in top form. He's very young in this album. There's epic, heavy moments. There's soft, beautiful moments. To me, this is really one of the finest albums of the genre, and I think it's still Circus Survive's best work to date, even though they've done, 4 incredible albums after this. I think this is their best one still. This is a really cool special edition. It's a triple gatefold. They did especially for the anniversary of the album. It's very limited, and every single LP on this is a different color pressing. This one's a certain type of splatter. They're all splatters to some extent. I want to show off the artwork on this because I think it's quite beautiful. See if you can see that. Really cool stuff. I think they got the artist that originally did the cover art for this to do all this inlay stuff for the re-release. And I don't know if you can see this. The very last side, there is no E and F side. There's just side E, and then the reverse side has an etching. You probably won't be able to see the etching, but you can see that it's you can see something probably. Very cool. I love when bands do creative stuff like this. It shows they're really making the most of the medium of vinyl records, because this isn't just about the sound quality. I mean, sound quality is a huge part about why I collect vinyl, but it's also, this is a piece of artwork. This is something that's special that I'm going to keep with me for a long time. That every time I go and listen to this album, I'm going to take this out and I'm going to spend a long time looking at this artwork because it's big and it's well done and the lyrics are in here. And it feels like something I own that means something to me. Rather, I had the CD forever, and it kind of just, I took the CD out, I played it, and that was it. I'm not going to sit there reading the tiny little booklet that, looks like was just stapled together. When bands do stuff like this, it shows they want to create something that means something to their fans, and I really appreciate that as a listener. I think that's something that's very special. So, yeah, great album. Go check them out if you've never heard them before. It's really beautiful, beautiful music. And that's it, VC. That's the third video out of 3. That's all the records that have shown up in Texas in the last 5 or 6 months. I got nothing else to show you. Stay tuned. I'm gonna try to do a video talking about my my stereo back here as soon as possible within the next day or two, because it's quite a setup that I'm quite proud of. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching again. Thanks for listening to me blab about music, most of which probably in this update most of you have never heard of. So I'm going to provide some links below to some of this music to maybe check it out, to give you an idea of what it is. And definitely check out all these bands on your own if you want. Support them. Most of them are currently active and trying to make a living playing music, which is always a difficult thing, as I'm finding out. But again, thanks for watching, and have a good one, VC.